Hi everyone and welcome to my channel. On this episode, I'm going to show you how to make this awesome shaker style corner mudroom for any entryway. It's a great project if you want to create some storage space, hang your clothes, jackets, and organize your shoes and boots. This is a corner one. I'm also going to give you plans for one that's going to be fitting on a normal wall for about an 82-inch wall. Those plans and this one will be in the description below if that's something you're interested in building. All right, well, if this is something that interests you, stick around because we're about to get started. All right, y'all, we are in my garage and it's now time to talk about how we're gonna actually build this corner mudroom. Now, I built this corner mudroom for a friend of mine and I actually have a much larger one in my home that is on a flat wall. And if you stick around to the end of the video, I'll show you some footage of that and what it looks like. And I will definitely provide both plans for each of the corner and the wall one in the description below. Now, before we get started, I normally take a sheet of plywood, I cut it down, I tell you some measurements and do all that fun stuff. But for this episode, I'm gonna do something a little different. I'm actually gonna take you to my office and I'm gonna talk to you about the 3D model that I made for this project. And I'm gonna walk you through the details on how I cut and things where you need to pay attention to on how to assemble the legs and all that fun stuff. So let's head on over to my office. All right, so what I want to do is I want to start by looking at the 3D model that I made for this project. I pretty much make models a lot when I do new projects just because I find it a lot easier to do than on a pencil and paper. Now, what I built first was the bench. Now, the bench uses a 4 by 8 foot sheet of plywood that I simply just cut down to the right width. I then attached the legs right here to the top of the seat by using pocket holes. So I put a couple pocket holes right in here and just used Craig jig system to do that. So just glue and screw and you're good to go. I then put these angled brackets in the back, and you can see here, let me flip around to the back here so you can see what it looks like. I put these in just to give it a little bit more stability and support. Now, those are just held in place by brad nails and glue. And once it's all cured, it's very strong and they don't wobble or wiggle or anything. Next, I moved to the top. Now, what I did here was I needed to, once I built the frame for the seat, I needed to put the face frame on, and that's this right here. And once I glued and nailed that in place and sanded it all in, I was then ready to apply the stain and polyurethane. So let me show you a little bit about that right now. For the top, I applied a Varthane polyurethane gloss, and I decided I want to put 3 coats on the top of this bench, and it turned out really well. I used the Sherwin-Williams Emerald, the white base coat, for the bench base and everything else that I was going to be installing. After I primed everything, I took it outside and sprayed it. Once it dried, it was ready to be installed. Here's the corner where the bench and the top and everything's going to be installed. The first thing that I had to do was install the brackets to hold the top cubbies in place. This is pretty simple. You just find the studs and then screw these right on in. And with the help of the homeowner, we were able to lift the cubbies in place and rest them on top of those brackets. Once they were rested and we checked everything, we secured them in place by drilling a screw into the top. Next, we moved the bench into the corner and made sure it fit perfectly. Once we knew it fit, we knew we were ready to install the vertical shaker slats. Installing these vertical shaker slats was probably one of the most challenging aspects about this installation. The reason why is the floor was off by about a ½ inch in some areas and not at all in some others. So we had to measure each individual piece and double check it twice. So just remember, measure twice, cut once. Here you can see that I'm installing some horizontal slats. This is to cover the gap between the wall and the seat. It also kind of frames every cubby in very nicely. One important step that you can't forget to do is putty all those little tiny nail holes. This goes rather quickly and I find quite enjoyable. Another thing that I would recommend doing is caulking all your lines. This will just give your whole entire wall a really nice, clean, sharp look, and it doesn't take much effort to do. After you've given your wall its final coat of painting, it's now time to install the hardware. The hardware that I selected requires 2 holes to be drilled, and then wall anchors installed. And that's what I'm doing here. Now that the wall anchors are installed, it's now time to actually attach the hardware. My hardware came with the screws. Sometimes they don't, so just make sure you check and you have those on hand. Well, now that I have the first one installed, it's now time to repeat this process 3 more times. If you're wanting to know what style of hooks I'm using and other details of this project, check out the description where all that information is available. Alright, that was the last piece that I had to install. This project is complete. I love how it turned out. I love the dark hardware, the bronze. It really makes this whole thing pop. If you liked this video and like this project, smash that thumbs up button for me. I really would appreciate it. It helps others find this project. Also, if you want to get notified of when I post new content and new DIY things, be sure to hit that subscribe button and ding that bell to get notified. Alright guys, well I'll show you a little bit of B-roll and little details of this project, and while you're watching that, if you have any questions or comments, please post them below. I'll be more than happy to answer them. Alright, well let's take a look at this project with some details.